actually like start with the first team, and we'll hand it to Cheng, who is the core lead for our team B that is presenting today.
Hello, everyone. So we start with group B8, which is Clark. I wish you all good luck in the presentation, and for the guests, don't be afraid to open mic and comments on the projects after the presentations.
We'll also share Instagram of the students, so if you want to like tag them or reach out to them, like feel free.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Great. Now I'll just get started. Hello, my name is Clark Cheng, and I am a design engineer based in the USA. Welcome to the world of exploration beyond, harnessing energy for survival. Let's go through the chapters in sequence to the evolution of this expedition. In chapter 1, we created the caregiver and the explorer. These two have a dynamic on how they move, gather, and roles they play in the exploration beyond. It was created using manual polygonal modeling and procedural modeling through Houdini. In chapter 2, we focused on the living space, using Maya for the base forms and Grasshopper to create subtle textures on the forms itself. In chapter 3, we parametrically modeled the world for the caregiver and the explorer. In chapter 4, we gave the world more depth with the vehicles for our creatures to transport about and give our world mobility for the amalgamation and beyond. And finally, chapter 5, we explored what lies beyond the fog, using the tools of C# and Grasshopper. The story begins on a distant planet where creatures and the environment evolve together, transforming into a glowing landscape fueled by the power of the crystals. The environment itself was evolving along with them, transforming into a glowing landscape of crystal and light. The environment itself was evolving with them, transforming into a glowing landscape of crystal and light. A central crystal is formed around the civilization to provide energy for all that exists within the proximity. Formations of small communities and growth spawns from the base form itself. The narrative is subdivided into different acts based on the stages of evolution of this world. In Act 1, Discovery. In Act 2, Growth. Act 3, Prosper. And Act 4, Legacy. Act 1, Discovery. We start with the prosthesis. Introducing a variation of the creatures known as the crystal explorers, who have evolved to harness and gather the remarkable energy emitted by the crystals. The environment underwent a profound transformation. The headpiece is made from many layers of rock, crystal, and organic material to hold together a beacon of light. The crystal energy heart is what keeps the creature alive. Similar to the head, it radiates energy mysteriously and flows around its body, acting as a sort of battery to the creature. The hand crystals are extensions that are used for harvesting more crystals from the ground. Jagged in shape, they can easily dig from the thick ice. And finally, the back piece. The back piece is an amalgamation of parts that has collected from the traveling through the lonely, icy plain. And finally, together, this creates the explorer. The caregivers. The caregivers is a creature that has learned to harness the energy of the power of the crystals. Where the very fabric of their world began to finally shift. These once dull rocks and earth began to pulse with energy, giving off a radiant glow that illuminated the creature's path. The creatures reveled in their glowing world, exploring its many wonders and basking in the vibrant light. The heart releases nutrient fluid into the body through the transparent veins. The crystal energy spreads and grows around the body to adapt to the variations of cold and dark environments. And eventually, the crystals are nested around the heart, protecting the one source of energy, thus creating the caregivers for this world. Act 2, Growth. Over time, the heart crystals evolved in the stage of growth, and light gave hope for this lonely civilization. These creatures eventually inhabited the very form that keeps them alive, the corpuscle. The formation of shell and crystals were a necessary evolution towards an energy source and protection from the harsh exterior environment. The very air itself was infused with the power of the crystals, and helmed with the strange energy, cracking with electricity and radiating with light. The lookout bubble gives a glimpse of the inside of this arch from the hard shell, while the textural patterns add a subtle patterning to add more depth and overall texture to the form. The interior system includes the resting chamber, built-in seating, and charging chambers. The same crystals and nutrient system that make up the prosthesis are attached to the corpuscle. These components are what make up the living cell with modularity. These communities mutate from the derivative of the base form, grown, stretched, and distorted into the forms you see. While different in form, all of them derive from the origin, the corpuscle. These start to change as it starts to shrink and mutate into the forms more basic and abstract from the base form of itself. These communities, while different in form, all use this evolution of part as it feels optimal for the life around it. Variations of clusters formed to perfectly fit its surrounding environment and with its best benefit to the community. Grasshopper was used to gather the iterations of clusters variations. These forms led to small communities that were sparsely made through areas they found as the savior areas. These communities, while different in form, all use this sort of evolution of part as it was optimal for the life around it. And thus the formation of a community was born for what these creatures call home. From crystals sprouting from the grounds to small public spaces being born to form a strong, well-knitted community. Crystal energy lookouts to help find others, resting areas such as bench seating, and finally, crystal towers to be a shining beacon for hope. Act 3, prosper. Over time, networks and vehicles were made to transport the caregivers and the explorers around easily, with the cosmic goldfish and the Salt Rail Express. The cosmic goldfish. The cosmic goldfish is not your typical private vehicle. It is a rocket-based vehicle that is designed to fly long distances and is shaped like, as you can see, a majestic goldfish. This vehicle is a true work of art with its two powerful black engines that provide the necessary thrust for takeoff and flight. The hard pink exterior and the soft reddish interior make it a true standout in the air, and the small fuel line ensures that the rocket has the power it needs to reach incredible speeds. The sharp lines add a sense of aerodynamics along with style. The integration of engines are fused and embedded with the vehicle itself. With its unique and impressive capabilities, this vehicle is sure to turn heads around and capture the imaginations of wherever it goes. The Salt Rail Express. The Salt Rail Express is a unique public vehicle that offers a one-of-a-kind transportation experience. Unlike traditional vehicles that run on roads or rails, the Salt Rail Express travels on a track that has been grown and provided from the surrounding soft materials, creating a truly organic and futuristic mode of transportation. The exterior shell gives a soft, natural feeling of safety and also, ironically, rigidity. Details of public vehicle are shown as an all-consuming growth, shown to protect and transport. The connection details between the track and the vehicle is softly embedded into the side, providing a seamless and comfortable ride for passengers. This public vehicle is very similar to the amalgamation with its combination of mechanical and organic elements. The Salt Rail Express is the perfect choice for anyone who wants to experience a cutting-edge mode of transportation that seamlessly blends technology with nature. With its unique design and impressive capabilities, the public vehicle is sure to be a memorable and comfortable ride for the creatures. The overall public and private network is a complex system that connects various components of the site and the amalgamation, allowing for seamless communication and operation between different entities. The amalgamation, while its advanced technology and advanced capabilities, is connected to the private networks, allowing for secure and reliable communication and operation of private vehicles such as the Cosmic Goldfish. On the other hand, the site and the crystallized base are connected to the public network which provides a robust infrastructure for operation of public transportation systems, such as the South Rail Express. These networks provide a comprehensive solution for transportation and communication needs, catering to both private and public transportation requirements. The private station that holds the cosmic goldfish. This station is specifically designed to recharge the vehicle through large-scale wireless charging, which keeps the vehicle floating in the air and ready for its next flight. The cosmic goldfish is a powerful rocket-based vehicle that requires a lot of energy to function properly, which is why the private station is equipped with the state-of-the-art technology to provide it with the necessary power. The station is a place where the vehicle can store it safely and securely, knowing that it will be properly recharged and maintained for its next adventure, thus creating an overall sense of style and unique option for your vehicle to always be in top shape. Public train station. The public station for South Rail Express is designed to provide a seamless and comfortable experience for the passengers using this unique mode of transportation. The station was modeled using procedural modeling and vellum solvers to act as a shrink wrap around the object. This results in a thin film wrapping around the public station pods. The station is made by manipulating the crystal growth in order to provide a station that is grown from the ground, creating a natural and organic environment that seamlessly blends with the surrounding landscape. End of Act 3. Act 4, Legacy. Design process. This information forms the foundation for designing the new world. Methods of compositing and computational tools, such as Houdini and Grasshopper, were used to facilitate different methods, such as Dijkstra's algorithm, A-star method, and Poisson distribution. Over time, this leads to the growth and development of interconnected cities worldwide. This logic emphasizes the uniqueness and functionality of individual forms, contributing to the character and diversity of gathering and residential spaces within clusters. And embracing this approach, cities evolve organically, adapting to the changing needs and fostering vibrant social interactions and livability. The migration tunnels are developed using a combination of Dijkstra's algorithm, A-star method, and discrete paths. The algorithm calculates optimal routes, considering factors like terrain difficulty and resource availability. Tools such as Houdini and Grasshopper aid in facilitating this methodology by providing a visual and interactive interface for the path manipulation. The energy paths for crystals are established by integrating them as significant energy sources within the world. Abundant crystal locations with its unique properties are identified to serve as key energy hubs. A system is developed to harness and distribute the energy generated by the crystals. Energy paths resembling power lines are designed to enable the transmission of power from the crystals to various regions. And finally, the flight paths. The flight paths for vehicles play a crucial role, as both major and minor vehicles possess the capability of flight. The goal is to create flight paths that ensure efficient transport and communication within the world. Key locations and landmarks are identified to serve as navigation points for these vehicles. Minor flight paths are determined through Poisson distribution with different areas of the world. Combining the layers of the migration tunnels, flight paths, crystal energy paths, and the amalgamation clusters on a map creates a visual representation that highlights their interconnected relationship. This map showcases how these elements intertwine and influence one another, revealing the intricate web of connectivity and functionality within the world. Migration tunnels depicted the routes of population movement, intersecting with flight paths to indicate the connection between aerial transport and migration patterns. And so, the creatures of the glowing landscape continue to evolve, their world shifting and changing with them. They learn to use the power of the crystals wisely, harnessing their energy for the betterment of their society and their world. And their planet shine brighter than ever before, a testament to its incredible power of the crystal energy and the creatures that have learned to harness it. Exploration Beyond combines the perspective of my world through a short film going through all 4 acts of discovery, growth, prosper, and legacy. With all 4 acts wrapped up, the cycle continues, exploring to the depths of what we can only know as beyond. Thank you.
Thank you, Clark. Thank you so much. You're getting so much love from everyone today. I love how much dedication you put into this journey with DesignMorphine. Your background is in the prototyping world, and I love how you embraced all these new softwares, and you really dived into creating this world that really reminds me of a snow globe. I love every detail that you're creating in it. It's very special, and it's very evident that you really put a lot of love into the work that you created, and you weren't fazed by anything else. So that's really a congratulations from me for the dedication and for the hard work and the beautiful result.
Thank you.
Hey Clark, it's really beautiful to follow your process, and the world is really well done. The dynamics of the roles in the community, like the caregivers and so on, is really nicely thought out. One comment that I would have is some of the parts I'm missing a little bit, like the engineering behind it. For example, and in a special like the cosmic goldfish, it looks like so pretty and organic sort of, but it's a little bit of a shell. So I would have some questions like, what is there a console? How do they interact with it? And with a little bit more going in depth with the engineering around that, how do they interface with it, and lining out that story sort of. You can answer some of those questions by giving more of the engineering examples. I saw it a little bit more in your video later on, like how the trolleys were going through the city and all of that stuff. But yeah, the engineering behind this stuff can answer sometimes certain questions that we have when we look at it, sort of. That's my only comment, but beautiful world.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you for the comments.
Hi, Clark. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
Well, thanks of all. I'll say, first of all, it's great job. It came quite far since we left doing prosthesis.
For sure.
And no, I would say I love the language that you develop over time, and I think it's still staying consistent with what you started with, your vision. So there is definitely a constant bridging between the first phase and the later ones. What I'd say though is I wish you paid the same attention that you had at later stages in defining this sort of taxonomy of objects and elements that you were embedding within your language at the very beginning, when you were studying how to integrate these crystals within the body, right? So what I wish I would have seen was more kind of this vocabulary, and studying maybe within a deeper study of the geometric properties of these crystals and what they could have meant to the body, and then keeping this consistent study and bringing it to the next levels when you are actually expanding in scales. So just if any advice to be made. At the same time, I can see definitely you built a workflow, and I think it's effective as this kind of constantly balancing out between the organic, the kind of the skin filling, and then the hard surface, which you touch on a bit as well. What I'd say, at later stages at the city scale, all of these could have been a bit more integrated as well, because you start at the body scale where they're fully integrated, so that it will make total sense to me if they become even more integrated at larger scales, at the point that you cannot distinguish them anymore, right? Not just they're not just getting scaled up, so you don't just see, when you build these networks, right, you just don't see areas that are fully made of crystals versus areas that are fully organic, right? I would wish for more of an in-between, and this is definitely something you can further develop in the future as you potentially come back on this research, right? So overall, great. I love the final animation. I think it made a lot of sense. The way you animated the character, that was really good. There are some technical aspects that you can still potentially develop. There is some struggle certain times I can see with the texturing, but overall great job. And I also do love the narrative. So
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. Poya says hi, by the way. So, Poya. Thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm Eric. Nice to see some friends here. Anouk and Arturo and everybody else. Nice to see you. As I'm joining in, I was looking at this project. I first of all, it's quite beautiful, and the narrative is also interestingly elaborate and staged. But I have my questions. I could question perhaps something on the lines of the previous comment about the crystalness of all these formations, in a way that if you could perhaps even design or construct or sort of organize the crystals at the very beginning more carefully and see what they can do, what are their capacities beyond just this allure, this idea that in general they would just provide energy, and question and look more into the morphology and the capacities that they have in their becoming and also the becoming undone of the crystals, and see but they could then begin to lend more properties and more characteristics to the other elements that are part of your collage. I see this as a collage, right? Not necessarily an amalgamation. Not sure precisely. I don't think that things are amalgamating that well yet. It's just a very nicely orchestrated group of disparate elements that are coalescing in creative ways. But I feel like there can be potentially some other elements that have to do with the organization of when the system begins to prosper and such, that the infrastructure, which at the moment is just a line, could maybe the way in which that infrastructure of communication, infrastructure of transmission of source, energy source, infrastructure of all sorts, can begin to sort of borrow characteristics and properties from the crystal itself, or the ways in which one could speculate crystal energy would need to be moved. And I think that could be an interesting second view on the piece, just beginning to look at the things that are not pods or not vehicles or not objects, but rather the things that are beginning to form networks and communicate stuff with other stuff, and I suppose people. I think that could also contribute to empower the project more.
Okay. Thank you.
Hey, Clark, amazing project. Congrats on the very rich story. I'm very glad to see that the prosthesis received an update at the end, and it's really nice to see how much you grow and how more elevated and elegant your design language become. It's really awesome work. Congrats.
Thank you, Nadia. Thank you.
So just wanted to say a couple of things here regarding the transportation pods. I mean, first of all, really great work. I love the color scheme that you picked up. And I do love the fact that there's a lot of gradients and opacities that you played with here when it comes to texturing and color, and just overall in the entire composition of the project. So that's really great. I think you picked up and you rendered a lot of elements really quick, but I enjoyed the fact that most of all of your transportation systems are not a familiar looking, sort of motorcycle thing or a car looking thing or a bus or any of that stuff. So that's a really great, I think, way of trying to see how that world kind of almost completely transforms, and how you kind of bring in now new ideas of understanding even transportation systems. I don't even have a problem with the thing of like kind of hanging off of the rail. Of course, questioning some of the stability of that stuff, but regardless, I think where this thing falls short a little bit is that it's slightly under-designed. I think there's a little bit to be pushed here when it comes to truly, instead of it being just simply a shell that you can sit within, there could be some kind of a turbine or a mechanism of some sort that could be attached to it. Or I don't know, you can add some to the aesthetics a little bit, because now you've become the designer of a new transportation system that we've never seen before. So, I mean, maybe that's just something they can push forward later on, is that when you invent something completely new, would be nice to take the design a little bit further instead of it being just simply a shell that moves around. But other than that, I think the overall composition and the project is super nice. So good work.
Thank you. I really appreciate the comments. Thank you.
Hello. I'm Harlan Miller. I wasn't here yesterday for everybody, but I'm super fascinated by, and I don't know if this is something that carries over to all the projects, but this notion of the act structure that you find in film. And generally, I love how you took us on this narrative of bringing us into this other world. I could almost envision myself being kind of a caregiver, running around kind of looking for different individuals that I need to respond to. But I think in Act 1, I think the one thing you left out, and you maybe alluded to it a little bit by the caregiver walking through this kind of ice tundra, is there's always a sense of entropy. And I think maybe Eric was tapping into this a little bit. You never really focused on how you struggle, like what the struggle is and how everything looks very thriving, and it looks like it's going to continue this linear progression through all the different acts, but then it actually never has that kind of that key moment of a struggle. And I think that's one thing you maybe could have tapped on a little bit there. But in terms of the journey and the story, I think you really captivated me. But
thank you. Yeah, I guess to respond, at least for the acts, the way I looked at it, when I was developing the video, I split it up in this kind of sequence, and I thought it made sense to present it in that way. So when I show the video, it's something that the audience can at least relate to and give feedback on based on the certain portions, and kind of a way of organizing the presentation as well.
Clark, what I would possibly add, also contribute to your organization in acts, and to connect what Harlan is saying, is also the notion of, he says struggle, I call it resistance, also that you can build in resistances within the design, but also resistance within the narrative. So there could be things that over time, nothing is so linear, nothing thrives so directly. So if there are problems in the story is also more interesting, right? So some of these people or whatever, or things that live there begin to encounter difficulties that problematize and need for the system to find the feedback of evolution and a way of absorbing and amalgamating over time. So kind of involve time as something that is less predictable, perhaps, or less willful, not less predictable. Yeah. But yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for this presentation. I think it was, impressive work, really great visuals, and the animations as well are quite compelling. I have to say also that the storytelling is quite, let's say, evocative and, really strong in a way. Perhaps maybe there is, some comment I would make about the way, like picking up on Nicola's comment on the idea of using references from nature, like crystals, or potentially adding also like the idea of an organ as a kind of working system, and as a sort of more complex series of rules that somehow like are behind these systems, both like crystals and organs, and working, like potentially making them more clear in the way you describe them, like from the geometrical point of view, but also how they potentially, let's say, generate the final geometries through a sequence of operations that you are showing on your presentation. One thing I would, I like very much the tension between the kind of rigid geometry of the crystals and their kind of growth system versus the organicity of the kind of counterpart of your project. I think that is something quite strong. I would capitalize on. Would try to make that more clear in terms of relationships, how things are interfacing. But I think in general, like the whole presentation and project, I think is super kind of, it's an inviting kind of new word, and I'm pretty sure like the gaming industry would be quite interested on having you collaborating to some of the new things are coming up. But yes, in general, like from my side, really congratulations, really good stuff.
Thank you. Thanks for all the comments. Thanks, Clark, for thank you for working with you. It was an awesome year of experience. And let's move on to the next team.
Thank you, Tom.
Next team we have Michael and Kate. Victory.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Okay, let's see.
I'll start off. So my name's Kate Reed, and I'm a Boston-based designer focused on building new interfaces that merge the physical, the digital, and the natural. I'm currently a researcher in residence at Dassault Systems, and I moonlight as an artist in residence at a molecular biology lab.
And hi, I'm Michael. I'm from Kansas City in the US, and I come from a background in product design and data science. I recently have worked for a medical research center where I use deep learning to study the human genome, and I'm really curious about the intersection between design, data, and storytelling. And today we welcome you to our project, Gaia.
And so in chapter 1, we designed the keepers of our world. And in this chapter, we learned polygonal modeling, detailed texturing and painting, AI-enhanced concept development, particle simulation, and rendering. We worked mainly in Maya and ZBrush, as well as Substance Painter, and we took inspiration help from Midjourney, and we rendered in Arnold.
And in chapter 2, we designed the habitats of our world. In this chapter, we explored polygonal modeling, computational modeling in Grasshopper, and some particle simulation. For this, we mainly used Maya, Rhino and Grasshopper, and Substance Painter.
In chapter 3, we designed the ecosystems of our world, which we call our mothers. And in this chapter, we worked with complex geometry and data-driven aggregation. This chapter was created through purely parametric modeling processes to create ecosystems from our habitats that were derived from a set of logic that we created. And so in this chapter, we worked mainly in Grasshopper, as well as utilizing the WASP plugin.
In chapter 4, we brought our world to life and designed the symbiotic relationships within our mother creatures. In this chapter, we worked with procedural modeling and vellum and cloth simulations in Houdini to generate creatures that inhabits the mothers. For this, we mainly worked in Houdini, and we made some major improvements to our understanding of materials, textures. We also experimented with rigging for the first time.
And in chapter 5, we designed the planet that our story takes place upon. In this chapter, we worked purely computationally and created custom scripts to create a closed loop system that brings our planet to life. We worked mainly in C# scripting and Grasshopper to create custom simulations, and then we worked in Nuclei to map the journey of these simulations.
We can see all these elements come together as we take a trip through time in this magical world.
Over thousands of years, a callous exterior has formed over a pocket of energy in a galaxy far away, creating a barren planet. This planet is largely uninhabited, yet it exudes energy across its landscape.
Emerging from this fervent core, resilient masses of rock collide, giving birth to a tapestry akin to tectonic plates.
These interconnected plates serve as conduits for raw power, engaged in an eternal ballet of collision and division, creating mountains and valleys across this barren crust.
This planet never sleeps. It's ever changing, moving by the power of pure energy within the planet's core.
Roaming this planet are two solemn keepers who have the ability to wield and maintain energy.
The Dawn Keeper is hardy and meaty. The blubbery mushroom-like forms help to keep this keeper warm and protected.
The keepers undergo a growth process similar to the creatures on Earth. The Arctic keeper starts out long and lanky, developing blubbery legs for warmth. As it matures, callous mushroom-like forms grow around its body, followed by the emergence of branch-like limbs. In the final stage, intricate callus details manifest due to the harsh environment, resulting in a mature Arctic keeper adorned with vibrant colors.
And the dust keeper is crunchy and callous with pinecone prickles protruding from the core of the keeper. These forms help to catch and store energy in their nooks. Here's the forest keeper in its youngest form, long and lanky with birch tree-like legs and a closed flower-like form at its head. As the dust keeper grows, the flower shape appears to blossom. The dust keeper's limbs start to twist, forming in a way similar to tree branches on Earth. It isn't until the forest keeper is fully developed that we see its body as more similar to a pine cone than a flower. And in full maturity and light, we can see the forest keeper with its vivid colors.
These keepers are a team, functioning as individuals in a larger whole. Together, they roam this barren planet, maintaining the flow of energy.
Roaming this barren planet are two individual roaming mothers, each a migrating intertwinement of entire ecosystems. Within each mother are two competing ecosystems, living in harmony.
The dusk mother alters between dry and dewy. The dusty creatures are like mites and crustaceans across the surface, nuzzling in between dust and air, while the dewy creatures here like to crawl and hop.
The dawn mother is light and airy with a sense of gravity different from our own. This ecosystem is filled with vascular, bubbly tubes with bulbous, slimy creatures meandering within. This mother houses the water and winter biomes.
Guided by an instinct, the nomadic mothers gravitate towards the pulsating energy centers as they slowly move over the planet's crust.
The mother's path is informed by the intensity of the changing terrain. They are careful not to take a perilous path.
As the mothers cross the terrain, they establish temporary havens to nourish their bountiful ecosystems until the inevitable transition of terrain compels them to embark on a perpetual quest for new energy.
As we look closer at the dawn mother, we see she is filled with life and there's movement within her veins.
Inside is a complex network of membranous, bubbly tubes, which interconnects the biomes throughout the mother. This network is filled with creatures that are swimming and transporting nutrients and energy. The dawn mother is in a constant state of life and decay, with parts of her decomposing and fossilizing at each moment.
As we look closer, we see the mother is made up of cells, similar to creatures on Earth. The shape of these cells has been honed over eons to create a habitat for the creatures, big and small, within.
These biomes are calloused from the harshness of the environments. In each habitat are public and private nooks for the creatures to rest and nestle in. Yet the dwellings themselves seem to be more alive and welcoming, with energy spouting within.
These habitats are like cells which multiply and mutate to form intricate cities. There is a mix of soft and hard materials in these cities, with the soft appearing to be some sort of gelatinous substrate, while the hard materials feel like calloused bone.
If we slow down our minds and look closely, we can see the creatures that reside within the dawn mother.
Hush now, let us not disturb these gentle giants as they await their arrival at the dewy biome hub.
Venturing deep into one of these vascular, bubbling conduits, we come across the most ancient of creatures. Through his verdant and golden tones, we discern the presence of a male.
These creatures soar through the sky as couriers of life themselves, bearing nutrients and energy from biome to biome within the mother.
Beneath their armor and gelatinous substrate, these creatures reveal a callous core that shields and protects the beings they transport with the utmost care.
Callous and meaty, the anatomy of these creatures is quite unlike anything we've seen on Earth. As we look closer, we see that these creatures are actually mothers in their own way, transporting an entire ecosystem of creatures and energy within.
Here we can see the Dawn Keeper awaiting its arrival to the Dawn Mother's core. These gentle giants are living embodiments of a true symbiosis.
While the Dawn Mother is blooming with life, we must not forget that she's an organism in herself.
As the mother traverses the landscapes, they grow and molt, leaving behind traces of their journey imprinted in fossilized remnants. These relics bear witness to the distinct moments along the path of the mothers, capturing the narrative of growth, decay, and consumption of energy.
As we follow a new trail of fossils, we can see the evolution that has created the Dusk Mother. Let us follow along these fossils and see if we can catch the mother along her path.
Behold, we have found the Dusk Mother on the other side of this shifting planet. As we enter into the Dusk Mother, we are reminded that there is still so much to be discovered on this barren planet.
This mother is made up of dozens of biomes intertwined to create a utopia for the creatures who reside within her and her arid, dewy ecosystems. The habitats that make up the Dusk Mother have an ancient feel that transcends time itself. Their evolution into dwelling starts from a mere seedling soaring through the air, which has evolved into a robust biome.
This resilient habitat has been formed by the extremely dry, harsh conditions, which has created canyon-like forms. Upon closer inspection, intricate details are apparent as the cells continuously evolve and mature. We see canopies, which have evolved with this habitat to create shade for the creatures nestling within.
As we look closer, we can see life pulsing through this habitat. There's energy spewing out of every orifice. There are nooks and crannies with shade and privacy, and energy is stored like honey.
As we zoom out, we see that these habitats grow and evolve to make up the Dusk Mother herself. This mother is a true utopia within, an embodiment of symbiosis. The mother herself grows towards the energy of the planet to provide a loving home for her creatures within.
As we zoom out, we catch a glimpse of the luminous network that links together the ever-changing biomes of the Dusk Mother.
Looking through the veil of the Dusk Mother as if it were glass, we see a radiant web that serves as a railway for creatures great and small. This glowing network threads through the mother's shifting biomes.
As we travel through the nooks of the Dusk Mother, we see crustaceans reside within her. As the workhorses of the mother, the male crustaceans shoulder the brunt of the heavy lifting, ensuring the vital energies of the land are distributed evenly.
Behold the queen herself, adorned in a shell that is rugged and sandy. At the core, the crustaceans are soft and gentle, a creature of love. The rough textures allows her to confidently transport vital energy through even the driest and dustiest of zones.
In their natural habitat, we witness the queen crustacean alongside her male counterparts, who are hardy and compact, equipped with formidable claws to aid in their laborious duties.
We encounter the Dusk Keeper, fatigued and weary after a long day's journey to the Dusk Mother. With her characteristic kindness, the queen crustacean graciously takes on the task of transporting him to his next destination, a testament to her true role as a vital lifeline within this harsh and beautiful world.
As we pull away from the Dusk Mother, we discover an array of fuzzy, caterpillar-like creatures nestled within her nooks and crannies.
In a moment of awe, we witness a male caterpillar traversing a perilous path. Let's give him some space so he can safely pass.
In another area, a female caterpillar takes a moment to rest and absorb the soothing lunar light, her rosy red cheeks glowing with added vibrancy.
The caterpillars bloom like a delicate flower, their layers of love unfurling one by one. The most pliable layer of the caterpillar is its internal membrane, nurturing budding baby caterpillars within.
Chunky, chubby, and chewy feet grant them the bounce and stretch they need to navigate their thorny terrain. Fern-like quills adorn their bodies, rustling in the breeze as they explore.
We witness the caterpillar extending a gracious welcome to the keeper, beckoning him into his vibrant ecosystem.
Inside the caterpillar cavern, the keeper takes a much-needed rest as he's transported through the mother's interconnected pathways.
And as we leave this planet, we are humbled by our mere presence in this world and reminded of the fractalizing beauty that exists on our own planet around us. Let's follow along our keeper's journey.
Thank
truly,
you, everyone.
truly captivating work, guys. Really beautiful work. It was amazing to see the final result of the video. I think it's capturing really the essence of the project on so many levels and the beauty. There's definitely National Geographic. It's ready for you, Disney and all the, it's ready for a move. It's absolutely gorgeous. I love that you guys worked so well together throughout the whole process. You really enjoyed working together and also learning, and applied so many new skills into this world, and had this fearless drive and fearless imagination. A lot of times you were breaking the rules and confusing a lot of your tutors. But I love this about you guys, because it means exactly that you have such a fearless drive and such a passion for what you do. And I think that you're doing really beautiful work, and I'm very happy to see you guys working together so well. And I'm sure that this is not going to be the last time.
Thank you.
Hey, Kate and Michael, beautiful world. I love the notion of decay as well. I like it that there's a lot of projects around energy, and yours as well. My only question that I have is about your creatures. I feel a big connection to your world, but if I look at your creatures, I'm sometimes missing the empathy. And one thing that we are talking about robotics is a robot having a face or sensors or something like that, that the robot can explore their world. And if you're looking at your creatures, it doesn't really have eyes, it doesn't really have a face. And for the viewer from my side, I feel that they're beautiful, but I feel a slight disconnection to basically the behavioral animals or the behavioral features of your creatures. Was that something that you work towards, your creatures not having a face, or that sensoric notion? And why did you do that sort of?
Yeah, do you want to answer this one, Kate, or?
Yeah, you can go for it first.
Yeah, so in our project, we kind of avoided a lot of human elements in general, just because we really, Kate and I come from kind of a biology background, and we're really interested in symbiotic relationships and kind of the beauty of nature. And while nature has eyes, we just thought that that might be too detracting to kind of normal narratives. And we wanted to just really emphasize the relationship between these creatures and kind of their natural beauty.
Okay, I like that. Yeah. So less focus on the faces, like making them less like cartoon characters or something like that. No, it's quite interesting. There's a big research on at Pixar robotics department, and they are basically seeing how much facial features they can take away from a robot for people to still have empathy towards it. So that's kind of an interesting thing. But that's, yeah, it's something that I noticed. But I like your answer that it creates more symbiotic notion within your world. And so, yeah, thank you so much for your work. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, I think in general, we were kind of flirting between the space of uncanny valley as well. How close can we get, but how far away do we need to be? And
it looks, it's a little bit like nudie branches, like the sea unicorns, the sea snails, sort of they also have a little bit, especially this one here. So yeah, no, that's cool. Awesome. Thank you for your answer.
Thanks, Nick.
Hi, guys. Nice to meet you. Great job. I mean, the graphics is super cool. It's the first time I see your job, so I'm also super curious to know how you got to build such a complex narrative. I mean, the process, but I know we don't have time to do that. I really like the consistency of the ecosystem you created, and the narrative as well. It carries kind of symbolic meanings, right, associated to nature, growth, sustainability. So it's very, very intriguing. So just congrats, very well done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, hi guys. Sorry. Go ahead.
I should go ahead. Okay, thank you.
Yes, please.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. The project is, to me, very reminiscent of environments that we see in coral reefs, especially because of these multiple scales and multiple organisms kind of growing within other organisms in a sort of fractal way, if you will. Not really fractal, but in the ways in which the kind of multiple forms and multiple scales of biodiversity are propitiated by some kinds of structures. And the one thing that Anoop mentioned, that your project also is interested in decay, or at least a little bit interested in decay. I think there's much opportunity there because also in your narrative, which I appreciated at first, especially because you use the word pulsation, which I'm very keen to that word, how your planet, the sort of like raw landscape, is in constant disturbance, and the tectonic plates and shift, and that kind of energy is constantly active. But I think you fall short of continuing that aspect of the narrative further. And then for the rest of the presentation and the movie, the landscape seems to always be this otherness, right? Something that to which all your mothers and your hubs and all your things that you have sort of operate in this kind of otherness, in this milieu that is separate from the creatures. And I think what's interesting is potentially this sort of feedback that can be established where, you know, parts, because you invoke time a lot in your project. And I think that this idea of shedding body parts or entire organisms that tend to die or partially die, and then they can begin to contribute to that landscape. Some of the, maybe that, you know, how things adapt over time in nature, and this co-opting of, you know, constant co-opting that happens within nature of things, and also from the point of view of adaptation to the environment, there could be an interesting game to be played in regards to how these creatures that operate at a larger scale, especially the mothers, I think there's an image at first that you show how they begin to latch on and connect to crevices and whatnot. I think that can be developed more than just how they stand on their feet, to how they begin to want to become part of the landscape. How these creatures, which seem to be rejecting to be confused with humanized aspects, how can they even further that by becoming also partially fossilized, but also working? You know how in coral reef, it's like a 3D printer, right? Further layers are built upon on dead parts, you know, they're spawning, and whatever spawning seems to find the right place, then it begins to create life and then affects that portion of the landscape. Anyways, I think it's absolutely extraordinary, beautiful. It's very enjoyable. I thought that there's more opportunity in looking at how it will tend to also modify the landscape and not just only inhabit it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. We gotta explore that further.
Definitely. Thanks for the comments.
Hi guys, I'm just gonna jump in now. So like I think I mean, I just gonna start saying that really enjoy working together in the second chapter. I think it was you know, like it's just like you guys couldn't stop working on like new ideas. It was like never ending. It was just almost trying to cut you short on what else to explore than trying to provide more ideas. It was almost like cutting branches. It's like you guys just have like fantastic creativity, and I think like, you know, the end piece, the kind of end state of the project now, it's so much richness of you know, like richness on the details and richness of ideas. But at the same time, I really appreciate that the kind of language is consistent, and then you manage to kind of keep these features that when you analyze the collective, like all the different elements together, it does belong to the same ecosystem. Yeah, so I think like that's very important. It's not like a, you know, like a Frankenstein made of all different things. It's actually like you can see the nature of it, and you see like evolution in the different species. I think like Eric's point was very interesting. Like I was also kind of wondering like how, you know, what would be the kind of feedback from the nature, and how you can potentially transform nature and almost blend in your corpuscles and your species within the nature. So kind of like more of these images that you have here, how, you know, can you can allow maybe for other creatures to appear or disappear over time as all these amazing landscapes are growing. But I think it's just like you know, it's just something that I'm sure like you could enjoy for another 5 years working on it. I'm sure like it's just like a matter of time. I think it's, you know, like it's a gorgeous piece of work. Like it's you should continue on it somehow, or find some sort of excuse to continue this collaboration between the two of you. You're working great together. Congratulations, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Kate and I will definitely keep working with each other for a while.
Yeah, just to tag on Alejandro's comment. I mean, if it was on the App Store right now, I'd actually throw you $20 to play it. So I think that you kind of nailed that in terms of capturing. I could tell as soon as you pulled it up, there was a cinematic direction with all the filters that you used, the colors, the textures. Yeah, I haven't seen something like that or have something hit me like that, and since I've seen like Monument Valley, which is that really nice geometric game in terms of how it's themed. So I think the marketability is spot on. I will say, when I looked at your this kind of the mother, which is this kind of big conglomerate, you got into one slide where you show the nervous system kind of interconnecting everything a little bit. So I see this connection, but I don't think you kind of nailed the geometric connection as well as you did when we look at some of the littler creatures in terms of how the shells kind of start to aggregate. And I wish we would have seen that a little bit more on some of the bigger, like the dusk mother and stuff like that. I think some of these components could start to speak to each other a little bit more in terms of how the mesh and the geometry actually start to interlock. But outside of that, I think it's great.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, one last comment, please.
Okay. Just from my side, maybe just a very quick one. Guys, super good presentation, impressive. You are super talented. I think, it's great to see so much creativity coming through, like a single project. I have to say also, like, what is really compelling is, the fact that potentially narrative and literature is, becoming more and more useful with the tools we have right now with AI, Midjourney, and other tools, ChatGPT. I mean, the importance of being able to tell a story is becoming more relevant, right now than 10 years ago, for instance. And I think you have demonstrated to be very good at it, and very strong, storytelling in general. What I would say as well is that, the hybridity of your characters and, going back to the comment on the empathic kind of understanding of some of the figures, I personally found all of them very, strongly linked to living creatures, like very, I empathically felt inside the story. So I have to say that is something that, again, is quite rare. I have to say the way you narrated the project as well tells me that, you could actually go very well, like in the animation industry, cinema, like Disney, Lucasfilm, but you can also like write books even for children, like you can be, you can drag and attract people in your stories very easily, and these are it's something that to me you need to really work on, and it's really a privilege to have people like you being able to inviting the audience into your world. One suggestion I would give, I think in general, like design-wise, you have very good intuitions. I mean, the colors, the shapes and the forms, they are all very well kind of, kind of organized, and also at the beginning of the project in a very systematic way, kind of designed. At the same time, I think you could potentially use more rules from nature, like phylogenetics and other, you can try to implement more, let's say, rule sets to make it even stronger. One suggestion I would give you, I mean, some of the videos remind me a lot of like Tim Burton or Guillermo del Toro kind of movies, but at the same time there is a famous Italian artist who made this book, which I'm going to share on the chat, which is actually Serafini. He wrote like a book. Actually, he made a book, the Codex Serafinianus, which is an interesting kind of catalog of hybrids. You know, this idea of hybrid and you know, kind of mixing nature with you know, kind of sci-fi, or and nature with more let's say you know, imaginative and abstract shapes. I think that that's quite something that I think you need to capitalize on. Is quite strong. So have a look at this book. To me, is one of the good references for what you are doing. It kind of brings you in the mindset of a person that tries to really create new creatures and new words, and this is what you're good at. So again, congratulations, well done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It was a pleasure working with you, and yeah, hope you guys continue working together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Don.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And let's see the next projects. We have Viktor and Mauricio. One more thing, guys, please put your names, Instagrams, and videos in the chat.
All right, welcome everyone. My name is Viktor, and together with Mauricio, we are going to take you on an exciting journey through our creative process and the world we've built. I'm a product designer based at the Dutch border in Germany, and I've been working with consumer goods, industrial machinery, and medical devices, and I found that there's a huge potential for the integration of computational design. So I want to explore ways to integrate complex and advanced design, push product design in all sectors to the next level.
Hello, everybody. Mauricio, an architect designer based in Denver, Colorado, USA. I was born in Bolivia, grew up in Brazil, and in my free time, I am a mountain biker. Architecture is one of my passions, and I believe computational design is very important to create and push forward the design in architecture and other fields. Let's flip through the work of our previous chapters. In chapter 1, we created our main character. Valmira Gashi modeled the character on the left. Sabo, we use Maya to create this dynamic contrast. Chapter 2, Corpuscle, is where we focus on the living space of the character, brought to life in Maya and Grasshopper. After working on the character and the living space in the first 2 chapters, we parametrically constructed the first settlements of our story, Lumo. In the Kinesis chapter 4, we brought to life the full deep of Lumo, with transport networks, vehicles, and ports for our character to move in. The last chapter allowed us to explore the world beyond Lumo and develop a story with deep through data analysis and coding. And now prepare to be captivated by the world of Lumo, where technology and imagination intertwine. Before that, remember the Virta saying.
As you embark on this journey, you will unravel the mysteries that lie ahead and find hidden treasures within your soul. As the years and decades pass, society faced environmental disasters and the devastating effect of global warming. Humans have been forced to adapt and sustain. Those in power fled to the mountains, where they developed the next generation of gene modifications to face this new world. They call themselves Virta and built Lumo, the city of light. Tall and white skyscrapers, reminiscent of the purity and godliness, are erected in honor of the demigods the Virta have become. The impoverished found themselves forced into the toxic water in the flooded ruins of the old world. Malhela, the water city, grows and gives birth to the Maro, beings that through mutation and augmentation became one with the sea. Tensions between the Virta and Maro rise, causing an imbalance of power and resources. But Savo, the leader of the Maro rebellion, is no longer watching. She prepares to take back the land that once belonged to everyone.
I am Hela, the champion of Lumo. I received the latest technical upgrades and adjusted my genetic code to serve as the defender of our world. Equipped with these advanced technologies, there is nothing the Maro can do to stop me.
Hela evolves, and so did his purpose. In his previous design, he was fully oriented towards agility. The alteration of his genes, his skin began to build a powerful shell, protective and lightweight. In his final form, he can choose to grow wings and fully deploy his battle capabilities.
Hela was designed from 3 main layers, each with their unique feature and functions. We have the main body from its yellow skin, machine elements, and carbonic bonds. As a supportive structure and the gold veins as a connection between biology and technology. Our goal during the design process of Hela was to capture the aesthetic of a bone structure and blend them with elements like the machine joints and reinforced carbon. On Hela's back, you can see the integration of the design intentions, reshaped muscles, reinforced bones, and radical power. Hela's battle mask allows him to use telepathy or decode the minds of the enemies. His journey from a simple soldier to a beacon of hope of Lumo represents the resilience of the Virta faction in the face of adversity.
Welcome to my living quarters. From the altar space for spiritual meditation to the structured walls that provide security, every detail of this space reflects the harmony between technology and the human spirits.
This space is one of the few where Hela's mind is a shelter from other Virta mind readers. The altar creates a strong magnetic field that blocks out all other signals of and creates vibrant simulations. The main hall is used for Hela to command his troopers or meet with other fighters to develop a new strategy. For the corpuscle chapter, we maintained the bone-like appearance and added layering of refined shapes.
This is Hela preparing his nutrition mix. The Virta don't eat. Instead, they vitalize their bodies with nutritional injections. In this living space, Hela recharges and uploads his memory. He can also oversee the city's defenses, ready to react swiftly in the event of an attack.
Lumo was built into the rocky cliffside near the water to protect our nation from Maro attacks. The vertical terrain demanded an architecture that would fit the natural rock formations while facilitating our soaring lifestyle.
Five modular structure allow the formation of functional subassemblies adapting to the terrain. The gate functions as a military checkpoint. The elevator allows the transportation of goods to higher levels. Module 4 serves a high security space, storing weapons and treasures. Module 3 is used to create the private living spaces and the anchor of the head of the amalgamation. A structural interface piece is created by Module 2. It is used to attach the big public space to the city. And lastly, Module 1 forms the barracks and a training facility for the military troops. Through rule-based design, we connected these subassemblies to create the final form of our amalgamation. Starting from the bottom up, the base and anchor provide the stability for the next stage. The armory and water trams ensure a secure environment. Quickly, the first private housing spaces can be attached. With the barracks in place, Lumo is almost done. The last thing missing are the public spaces.
Mind. They are Lumo spaces for community and align with our belief in the mastery of body, mind, and spirits.
Three levels provide entertainment and allow the soldiers to enjoy the gift of it in life. The Virte hold battle nights to resolve conflicts or show off the latest gene edits. Here, Hiller and his friend are dominating the arena. In the mind space, the energy frequencies equalize, connecting the minds of all Virte within range. Together, they develop a vision for the future.
To introduce the vehicles that you can find in and around Lumo, we prepare a short kinesis teaser.
Sorry, before you go, can you share the whole screen? Because we cannot see the whole thing. Yeah.
Now, let me show you my battleship, the Hornet. This ship carries a whole division of troopers and 3 drones. It's ready to blast our enemies into dust. We got a plasma cannon in the front and a rear stinger striking with 500,000 volts.
The real magic happens in the cockpit. That's where Hela takes the reins, feeling the pulse of the ship and his men. The Hornet also features lug springs that absorb impacts and harvest energy from the environment. Troopers can spread on one of the 3 inner levels and use the load ramp to drop or pick up dangerous cargo. These drones are called bumblebees, golden nuggets of machinery. They are fully autonomous, armed with advanced sensors, and capable of evacuating injured soldiers.
The single-use airship is the Wasp. It is the next generation jet, extremely agile, fast, and deadly. 2 guns at the front allow the trooper to take down the enemy. The wings can rotate to adjust to maximum speed and braking and landing maneuvers. With the procedural tool of Houdini, we could emphasize the base shapes and integrate some of the surface details for our vehicles.
Houdini particles light our way, connecting the major points and provide routes that reach into the far corners of Lumo.
The main network is used by Hornet patrols as means of protection. It reaches from the main port of the base all the way to the public spaces inside Lumo. The Trooper Speedway is securely hidden behind the architectural structures, mostly used for personal transit. Here is one of the docks. It can host a single Hornet and multiple WASP on the lower deck. With the transport networks, vehicles, and ports in place, Lumo reached its final stage.
Lumo is one of the many inside the Virta nation. 17 districts are distributed across the land. With its mountain range and surrounded by water, we choose Norway as the base for the work of our cosmogony. There are 6 main sectors in the district of the Virta society: energy and power, governance, mining, defense, gen research, and the civil sector. 4 network systems support the life of and trade of the Virta. During the design of these networks, we were using local data maps to make meaningful and functional systems that connect positions on land and in air.
The primary network links the district capitals and extends beyond existing districts to prepare for expansion into new territory. The secondary network is mainly used for transport of goods and resources from east to west. The tertiary system, based on the geographical landscape, flows along the mountain terrain. It is being used for personal transport.
Recently, the expansion of our territories lead to clashes with the Marrow. The defense network surrounds the mainland of Virta. Our defense map reveals the delicate balance and the challenges Lumo faces in maintaining peace. Direct confrontation is inevitable, which is why I increased the number of patrolling troops. One of them is returning from a shift. Let's welcome them back together.
Viktor, please can you reshare again? So, yeah, so that we can. Yes. Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, guys. Wonderful project. Super proud of you too, and all the hard work you've put in, especially how much positivity and curiosity was on the way throughout this project. It really came together in such an incredible way. I feel that you guys were working very hard from the beginning, and this really shows. I can't wait to see, like a comics made out of this series. However, the video is showing how much this, like how exciting this world is and how vivid you created it. So thank you so much for being with us and for sharing with us this today.
Thank you very much.
Hi guys, just gonna say something short. So I think like in general, I would say like when we were working together as well, I always kind of highlighted like you have like very strong aesthetics. Like I think like you found a language that it kind of works very well. I would just say like when you explain the project, I try to kind of explain a bit as well, just not so what the product is, but so also why it's like that, and like try to find in your narrative, like I wouldn't talk about public spaces, for instance. I will try to find like the right wording to refer to the very specific narrative that you created. I think like like you have a lot of components that you've studied throughout the year, like from the from the processes itself to the corpuscle, and then the way you have aggregated. I didn't see the chapter 3 of your creation, but I think like it's fantastic as well. I think chapter 2, like we were kind of going back and forth, but you could see already that there was a lot of potential on how these elements were going to aggregate. I think it came out like very nice together, but I think it's just like maybe because we have very short amount of time, I wish I will have a bit more of explanation on what the public space is and like, what are the rules that creates this amazing aggregation that you've put together. So I think that's the only part that I would say is missing, and I'm sure it's there already. So it's just like try to articulate it a bit, like when you kind of define your final product. But it's all incredible. Congratulations for everything.
Great, thanks, Ale.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm trying
Hello,
to look
guys.
oh, no, I don't want to get on the way. Please go ahead.
Oh, okay, thank you. I just wanted to say I really like your project, very visually compelling, and I think your narrative is very strong and it provides a nice structure for your project. I think you can, from a storytelling perspective, maybe lean on that narrative a little more. Like if these spaces are being used for the strategic military purpose, maybe that influences, the use of these different pods, and you have these different evolutions of your prosthesis. Maybe there's, in this hierarchy of the soldiers, different spaces are used for different things, and you could use that to elaborate a little bit more on the development of your spaces and your, amalgamation.
Good, thanks.
Oh yeah, so this is kind of like a army training base of sorts, I suppose. And try as I might, it's difficult to separate the world that this is creating, or the sort of it's like a mirror of the world too. So in that way, I think that the strategies for taking over the world or defending the world peace of some sort, sustaining the balance of peace, it's an entire, it's complicated to speak about these things in the realm of the kind of impending doom that we have in this strange world. Nonetheless, this is a fun project, and I know it's building up on a genre and it's kind of fantasy land, but I'm trying to think also how this is not just replicating the motivations and the organizations of regular army bases and training camps for fighters, let's say, and for fighting machines. In what ways does this project depart from the just simply a description of things that exist, stylized or kind of made more cool, let's say? So I'm kind of questioning that a little bit. And perhaps even, let's say, you could, when we look at the training part, instead of calling, public space is really on a Navy, on an Army training ground, more likely like training camps of different kinds, maybe getting much more into, if it's about that kind of world, getting much more into the sort of protocols of fight, battle, to define not only just the creatures, but the kind of spaces, because it's mostly flat slabs with some form and whatnot, let's say, and people are just, or some little arenas for competition and then moving around. But how, maybe that's what you can really elaborate a little more, and to produce a sense of estrangement that would further, leave the world that we have outside in the world now, in terms of fighting and machines and intentions. Just, yeah.
Great. Yeah, thanks. I think there are some really interesting points that we could follow up on. Maybe also interesting to know that this was part of a 3-people project, and there were these water people that we presented on the very first image. And the initial idea was that we have this conflict going on where we would develop both worlds to an equal level. That didn't happen throughout the program. So we had to focus on, or we wanted also to focus on this part. But I think with the addition of the elaboration on the other world, we could have really make a much more clear the differentiation and what is their perspective from the Virta side, what is peace to them, or what are they defending against, what are the mutants, like who is the real human here, who's the bad guy, who's the good guy. So there's a tension that certainly could have added a lot more to the discussion also. I just wanted to bring up for clarification maybe.
So I just want to jump in real quick here. Sorry, just regarding, it's again a really great project. I think the narrative also works, but the one thing that stood out to me the most, and I think that it's parts that you guys might need to improve upon a little bit going further, and this is kind of related to this killing and the software part, and not necessarily design, is that, whenever I'm glad that you guys sort of gave us, which part you did polygonal modeling for, and which part was more of grasshopper, and which part was parametric or procedural. Was I can see here, even from this image, that the parts where you did polygonal modeling for are the ones that stand out the most, because they're the ones that are kind of got a little bit out of control, right? Like you're using a little bit of a familiar language that we've seen a lot. And when things don't look quite right, we can easily spot that if you know and if you have enough experience in polygonal modeling. So I would say if that's the world you want to jump into, it takes a lot of practice to develop the eye to really know where the seam goes and where the blobby, and if there's a part of the polygon that's obviously looking blobby and you can't fix it, then there's a way to render it with a different material that is not, let's say, white. Because now in all of this, like I'm seeing this, the board that you have here, the parts that pop up the most to me are the ones that are the white frames that are not quite actually perfected when it comes to the polygon model, the polygon modeling part of it. So this is just a little bit of a nitpicky kind of a point. I think the project is great. I think the narrative is amazing. The graphics are great, but just if you want to improve upon a few things, just watch out for that part.
Good, thanks.
Can I add something more, just shortly? I think that there's something interesting in the part where you show how this begins to expand and whatnot, where civilians are mentioned. And it could be interesting to think about what is the effect of these this kind of community, as it's not only just on its own in a sort of neutral terrain that is also fantastic terrain because it's dropping and just latching onto an interesting terrain, but also in regards to populations, or in what ways these begins to interface with a non-military setting. I think that could be richer and force, yeah, more versatility.
I think that's an interesting point. I mean, of course, we focus now on this specific thing that we presented, but we also explored in mid-journey, for example, potential other places here, for example, on top left, could this be an energy base in that society, or a mining facility that we mentioned, like the governance. So we were thinking about it, but yeah, I think there's a lot more to gain there. And I think you raised, again, some interesting points here that we can explore further. Yeah, thank you very much.
It will bring more polemics too. That'll be fascinating.
Thank you. Thank you all for the comments. Thanks, Viktor and Mauricio, for your work. It's been a pleasure working with you the whole year. So good luck with everything that's come. So
thanks.
Thank you. So now we can have 10 minutes of break and we'll come back to Y22. Okay, next team we have Balakumaran and Yusrah from Y22.
Hello.
Hello, guys.
Hello, everyone. Hi, everyone. I'm Yusrah. I'm an architect and urban designer based in Dubai, but originally from Nigeria. I signed up for this program because I wanted an insight to the progressively evolving technologies in the built environment and capitalize on opportunities of computation design using computation design in urban design.
Hi, I'm Bala. I'm an architect from India, and I do work at multidisciplinary design studio, Mulla in Dubai, where our exploration encompasses a wide range of applications, right from modern interpretation of a tile to a complex interviewing multi-story buildings. And I am interested in applying computational and parametric workflows within our practice to push the boundaries of modern and cultural horizon, and I ended up in this program.
So, with the destruction of Earth, a few humans traveled through a vessel in search of a safe haven. A crash happened, and the humans ended up in this extremely hot and arid environment. First, their body was mutated, and we expressed this using Maya and keyshot. Then, development
dwellings which we modeled using Maya and Rhino. Then, they started amalgamating these into colonies, and we deployed this with Wasp in Grasshopper Rhino. Then, they developed kinetic systems which were designed in Houdini. And finally, they found cities which
using networks developed in nuclei. Let's explore how all of this happened in depth. We woke up to this blinding light. The unimaginable had happened. Earth as we knew it was no more. Flocks of people were running into this unidentifiable vehicle. It was supposed to be the safe haven for humanity. As we moved through space, we crashed because we were hit by this bioluminescent force, which caused us to fall into this extremely hot, arid, windy environment. The floor was hard and rocky, filled with lava. The heat from the environment was burning through us almost like we were in an oven. Our skin felt like it was on fire. Our flesh was burning off. Our muscles dried out. The moisture in our body was evaporated. The unimaginable had happened. It was almost like we were responding to the organic cellular in this environment. We had become this desert skeletal callous alien. Our posture began to evolve over time, becoming more compact and stunted. Everything felt different. No water, no sign of life, no fruit. It was almost an alternate reality.
We were becoming retardants. Yes, the extreme arid climates, however. We are made up of composition of 5 unique systems. First, the receptors, our productive vessels. Then, layers of dried skin as a result of the extreme heat and drought. Then, layers of torn muscles disintegrating over time. Then, various densities of dried and cracked bones. And then, the bone-like malleable exoskeleton that serves as an anchor, holding all the other systems in place. Our eyelids and nostrils grew filters to protect us from the dust and sand. The skin on our cheeks were dried out, and then antenna-like water sensors grew out. The skin over our brain had burnt off, and a protective muscle had grown over. Spikes that extract moisture from the air were growing out of the shoulder pads. Cage-like bones grew across our chest to protect the respiratory system, an essential system, from being exposed. Our spine has become exposed, and a bony cage has grown from it to protect the internal organs. The skin on our hands are dried off, and our bones gradually get exposed. Our fingers were morphed into these long, sharp elements. Similarly, these fibrous tissue have grown over our reproductive parts to further protect them from burning. Most of the flesh on our limbs were disintegrating slowly, leaving a lot of dried fractal bones around our joints. Our feet had mutated to a hard, callous surfaces that looked almost like hooves.
As time went by, we the retardants kept wondering if we were lucky to actually survive this, or if our new form was some sort of punishment. But we choose to believe that we are actually survivors. Accepting our new reality, we began creating our new burrow by assembling materials found in the environment, such as fragmented rock pieces, pebbles, minerals, and gems. This is the retardant's new dwelling, our monolithic haven. This dwelling is typically made up of long carved-out rock pods connected through a central cave, which serves as the heart of the dwelling. Our burrow consists of layers of rock panels, translucent dust filters, thermal pebbles, and crystals. These rock panels are the primary shell that hold all the main pieces together. The translucent filters protect us from flying particles and dust. The thermal pebbles serve as insulation, storing heat and recalibrating the temperature in the chamber. We also have this bioluminescent crystals, which are embedded in the panel to serve as receptors of energy. Typically, the dwelling consists of a composition of powerhouse, crawl chambers, research coves, nutrition spaces, and even cleansing chambers. Sectionally, these different pods intersect and open into the central cave, which is a hollow interstitial space that serves as a communal and gathering space for the retardants. It also serves as transition to move from one pod to another. Inside the dwelling, we created 3 families of furniture. One is a series of carved-out rocks that are covered with minerals and sand. Second series are the fire pieces, which are compacted lava pieces. The third series are heated rocks carved out of the walls of the chamber. This is just one example of how we, the retardants, have assembled different elements, interlocking them to create a dwelling. To shelter us from the extreme heat in this climate, our colonies are usually nestled in narrow spaces between canyons and mountains.
Typically, it starts with the leftover rocks magnetically growing from the lava parts which is within the rocks. Then, a linear branching stems out. And a series of mineral depots are anchored along these branches. Around the depots, communal hubs begin to cluster. Then the main dwelling aggregate around the communal hubs from which the dwelling clusters swarm. Finally, the lakes, crystals, and minerals start to grow. This is our new home, the retardant colony. Typically, various types of long carved rock pods are connected systematically to create various types of dwellings. The dwelling unit consists of composition of pods with different functions. The compositions and sizes of these spaces vary depending on function and occupancy. Systematically, our dwellings type A, B, and C aggregate with each other into microclusters of 2 to 5 units. Dwelling type D, which is usually larger in size, typically connects to all other types of dwelling and serves as the main connection to the communal hubs, which are the main core of the colony. Here are some examples of the microaggregations that make up our colony. As our entire colony grows from minerals, lava in the rocks, we have a series of mineral depots nested within the communal hubs that harvest and control the flow of these minerals. Over time, the returners have developed a series of function and recreation spaces around the colony, such as the mineral lakes, crystal farms, mineral depots, and rejuvenation plazas. Here is a closer look at the colony where you can see one of these public spaces flourishing, the Crystal Growth Plaza. The Crystal Growth Plaza is a core-like interstitial space between the communal hubs. It has a series of crystal farms growing within a mineral lake, which is the most fertile part of the colony. This space is a symbiotic ecosystem where heat discharge reacts with the external heat and bioluminescence forces and condenses into liquid substrates that flow back into the lake. The levitating crystal, which is in the heart of this space, is filled with lava that creates a magnetic field around it that has a superfluous amount of energy that holds the different elements of this colony together.
Over time, we started to create mobility systems to move around this colony. We developed 3 networks around the colony, and 2 vehicle and systems and depots were systematically deployed. First, we have the crawl network, which is an energy lava path brewing on the surface of the mountains. Then, the public network, which is an energy trail created through heat shocks and serves as the path for the public vehicle to move. Then we have the private network, which are mineral trails emerging from the mineral depot that guides the private vehicle around the colony. Then we have the public docking stations, which are deployed along mineral depots, and the private docking stations which are deployed along public spaces. Here's a closer look into the colony where you can experience how the different kinetic systems interact. The mineral trails emerging from the public docking flowing through the colony, and the energy trails connecting to the public docking anchored in the depot. Additionally, retardants developed a mechanical vehicle and a monolithic private vehicle to take them around this.
This is the public vehicle. The public vehicle is run by energy crystals that track the energy trails. The public vehicles are used by the retardants to carry the crystals and minerals from the mineral quarries. Structurally, the vehicle has stay pods with crystal storage, the energy trail detectors, mechanical rooms, powerhouse crystal, and crystal refineries. The crystals form the lifeline of this vehicle, which the retardants use to travel to mining sites and dig it. Then, the energy trail detectors of this vehicle senses the energy trails and guides the public vehicle. The mechanical floor is supported by bigger energy crystal from which the energy that is trapped inside them gets distributed to the entire vehicle. The pods here is a reservoir of crystals that gets refined and converted to usable energy for the amalgamation. The stay pods are anchored by an internal lobby where the returnants gather before the journey. The public vehicles dock along these energy rocks that derive its energy from the floating lava mountain. These lava mountains flow due to the electromagnetic field from the molten minerals that have been in lava state for a long period of time. The vehicle enters the docking station through these recessed magnetic panels. The docking station hosts and recharges these public vehicles.
The monolithic private vehicle is made up of two segments: the passenger capsule, which is where the creatures stay, and the hull, which is a storage. All of these are anchored by three chunky rock pebble legs. The crawler is made up of thin rock panels, mineral tissues, a crystal globe, and various forms of energy crystals. All parts of the main chamber are welded together by a dark mineral frame, which is like an exoskeleton, tying the different fragments together. The crystal globe in front is the main energy core and the control center for the vehicle. The hood of the vehicle also has these horn-like antennas that are adorned with the spiky crystals, which are geolocation sensors and danger sensors for the vehicle. The bonnet is made up of disintegrating rock shells coated with liquid sheen and tiny energy crystals embedded in them to hold them in place, while the mineral filtration membrane on the side of the vehicle serves as insulation, storing and recalibrating temperature in the chambers. The hull, on the other hand, is shaped like a cone to enhance its aerodynamics. It's made up of hollow interlocked sand rocks, pebbles, thorns, and even minerals from the surrounding of the colony. The private vehicles are usually kept along mineral depots, which is where they discharge and store rocks that are carried in the hull. The depot serves as a transit hub for the crawlers coming from outside the colony. It also helps to connect the private network with other spaces. The dock are usually made up of fragmented translucent rock sheets, hard rock panels, thin shelled magnetic boards, and the monopod. The monopod, which usually opens laterally when the crawlers approach, is where they are stored. It also serves as some sort of rejuvenation and cleansing chamber for the crawler vehicle.
As the colonies expanded, multiple settlements began to emerge. Here is an outlook into the cosmogony system of the returnants. This example from our world is a steady area around 4 volcanic points along the mountainous canyon ridge. Overall, the neighborhood is deployed in these steps. The settlements are represented by these geometric reminiscences of the amalgamation, where amalgamation is translated into living clusters and variation of public spaces. These clusters aggregate over time to create dynamic functional neighborhood using the rules and system development that were used in the initial amalgamations.
We also developed a series of public spaces that happen in the cosmogony system. Overall, this is the settlement logic. From the volcanic eruption path, we have mining quarries where neighborhood cores begin to grow, and then the clusters of settlements swarm from it. Here is our new world, an arid volcanic universe made up of cities that feed off mineral and energy, and settlements embedded in canyons which are filled with lava around volcanic eruption points. Our world is made up of 5 layers. First layer is the eruption path, which is a dynamic magnetic path made up of volcanic lava rich in minerals and magnetic energy. This fosters the growth of the colony. Then we have the heat energy path, which serves as the primary connection between cities around the volcanic point. Then we have the crawler energy path, which is a private network that helps retardants move within their settlements from one amalgamation to another. Then we have the lava trails, which help distribute this energy resources to areas that are far from the lava eruption points. Then we have public spaces, which typically are quarries for harvesting minerals and energy. They also serve as large recreational spaces for the retardants. Finally, we have the retardant settlements, which are made up of clusters of amalgamation that swarm from the quarries. So far, this is how much the retardants have developed their colony. Now here's a little video that shows you a trailer of a video game which the retardants are developing for you so you can experience their world with them.
We can see the video. Yusrah, we can see the video. Yeah. Can you share the video?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Wonderful, wonderful presentation. Thank you for your presentation today. You created such a rich and vivid world that was really exceptionally told the whole story about it. I think that you were one of the teams also sharing a lot of the logics behind, the creation of your world. And also I do appreciate a lot of your systematic approach, obviously, but also the narration and drama that comes into the project. Thank you for sharing, guys.
Yeah, I'll jump in and say thanks, Retardant team. So many times in the architectural world, you're confronted with so many constraints when the client gives you real world working brief with all the program already assigned. And I think what you did was actually you took kind of a highly conceptual narrative and then you actually injected a little bit of that real world brief back into it, which I think was a great thing to kind of see. And then it's kind of a double-sided sword though, because I think that can also sometimes constrain you a little too much. And so, that's one of the things you got to be careful about. But even the way you handled the landscape, you embodied your collective kind of project within the two mountain range valleys, which was kind of that's the first time somebody had actually shown that the landscape actually kind of came up and almost constrained you or gave you a physical constraint that your city was actually blooming between. But thanks.
Hi guys. Want to say thank you for the work. I think also you put a lot of effort on kind of explaining the evolution of all the different parts of the project. I think that's very relevant, and when it comes to this amount of complexity in the project, becomes crucial for everyone to engage in the project. So I think that's something that you should be very proud of. I think when it comes to the kind of rock formation, I will hope that as you were evolving the project, you will kind of get more into different rock formations and really or exploit all the different potential morphologies and combinations of rocks that you could have got into. The aggregation, so when it comes to chapter 3, I think maybe because of the design of the corpuscle itself, it gets a bit too linear, I would say. If I had to say something about the project, you kind of either pack them as a kind of a packing system, or then they kind of rotate in a very sharp angles. I think maybe trying to add additional rock formations to enrich the way these systems could aggregate could have been quite interesting, if you were to have a bit more time to develop on that. But yeah, I think it's just more when I see these images, there is not that natural movement or natural growth. It kind of grows more like crystals, but then I don't know, perhaps if you were to have to add another element, another unit to it, and then kind of grow in between them, that could have been also an interesting way to develop it. But yeah, I think you pull it all together. So at this point, that's the most important part as well. It's not easy to pull these narratives together. So congratulations for the work.
I loved all the earthy tones, and it's nice to see your just your process throughout. Also all the spaces within the structure that we're currently seeing, for example, how you thought that over, and you really can imagine how you can roam through that. So the practicality of that was really interesting to see you guys develop. Thank you.
I think this is probably, to me, the first time where I see the macro world, the sort of overall zoomed out version, to be quite, more compelling than the components themselves. I really like the earthy tone, the colors, of course, and the aggregation of your parts, even if they seem to be repetition of the same shape that you scaled up and down. At the zoomed out level, it looks really compelling, and I think it's successful. And I do like the fact that you've worked out your site between the two mountains, but I'm not sure if I'm convinced by the components themselves. You know, they're a bit too architectural. I mean, even in your circulation, and there's one drawing where you had like sort of the wall thicknesses and you have like a lobby in between. As much as that I mean, it's a double-edged sword, like it's been mentioned. I mean, we could say, you know, it's familiar, but I don't know. I feel like there's a lot more to work with when it comes to rock formations. I mean, what about the texture? What about the different strata? What about the different types of rocks that we have? Why did you stick with one color? How did you? I don't understand even when it came down to making the window, right? Like there's like a mullion system of some sort that you've carved. You didn't even carve it out of the rock. It seems like it's a rock shell at some point as well, that's not how really rocks work. I mean, a rock is more of a cave once you start aggregate them. Even in terms of the transportation system itself, I think it's just a repetition of the same rock shell. I mean, I think I'm still not quite actually capturing the rocks, because to me, rocks have an outer, you know, complexity and also inner complexity that we could carve in and out of. So, I mean, that's my only point. I think the overall, the zoomed out version is quite compelling, but once you zoom in, I think there's a lot of work to be done, just detailing working with rock formations themselves.
Hi guys. I wanted to say, I think you have a very strong narrative, and this narrative provides a lot of, especially environmental like parameters you can use to guide your design. And I think you really touched on that in the prosthesis, describing this sort of evolution and how these environmental aspects have shaped your being. And I think in your story, you should continue some of those elements, maybe touching on the design development of your spaces. Like you chose this alcove because it's out of the, you know, it's shaded and it's out of the direct sunlight. If avoiding the heat is the main thing, like why you chose the shape you did for your amalgamation or for your corpuscle elements, and how this sort of extreme environmental parameter is sort of guiding the design, not only on your prosthesis level, but continuing like into spaces and your kinesis as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks everyone for the comments. Thank you, Bala. Thank you, Yusrah, for the work. It's been a pleasure. Like this year, the work has been incredible. Incredible details, incredible stories. So you should be proud of yourself. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now I need to introduce the next team to a magical world of us. Anita and Prashant.
Good job.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. My name is Prashant, and I'm an architect from India. I'm pursuing my master's in urban design from the Bartlett School of Architecture in London, along with the master's program at DesignMorphine.
Hello, I'm Anita from the US. I have 2 graduate degrees in luxury brand management, one from Soup de Luxe in Paris, which focuses on digital media. I've worked in the field of art, representing meta artists in London and Dubai, and studied creative writing at the University of Cambridge, specializing in fiction and performance media. Together, Prashant and I represent the world of Oz.
In chapter 1, we designed our character, who we call the wizard. We took inspiration by using AI text-to-image tool Midjourney. From these inspirations, we started modeling using Maya and ZBrush, which then were rendered in Keyshot and post-process using Adobe Photoshop. In chapter 2, Corpuscle, we designed our home for the character, taking inspiration again from Midjourney and modeling using Maya, ZBrush, Dino, and Grasshopper. In chapter 3, Amalgamation, we used Maya to create the parts for the aggregation. To create this aggregation, we use fishbowl logic and wasp in the rhino and grasshopper to create the connection logic. To create the terrain on which the aggregations are to be placed, we employed Houdini height feed. We also use Mandelbrot to create the fractals and other elements which are incorporated into the environment. In Kinesis, we designed the vehicles and networks which the beings of Oz use to commute. We used Maya and ZBrush to explore the basic forms of the vehicles at the start. We also used Grasshopper to test the network at their earliest stage. All of these logics and tests are then translated using Houdini and procedural workflow to create and define the detailed versions of vehicles and networks. In the final chapter, Cosmogony, we use Midjourney to conceptualize the world of Oz on a larger scale. We use QGIS and Python to gather and rationalize the datasets of the real terrain of Kyushu Island of Japan. To create the three networks, we use nuclei, and to deploy the amalgamations, we use C# and the game of life algorithm. To generate the final drawings and maps, we use Illustrator and Photoshop. During the course of this master's program, we learned various tools, workflows, and interoperability between them, using which we created the final project, Oz.
So Oz is a place set in the present time, in a different universe where human interaction is not dominant, and where diverse animal and plant life forms have been permitted to evolve. It is known to many as the Outer Zone, and to others simply as Oz. So in our original story concept, our story begins with once upon a time, in a place where nature can thrive and flourish, a place called Oz, a young girl named Dahlia falls through a wormhole from this world into the mystical one, and by doing so, she disturbs the grave of the Dark Queen, which allows the Dark Queen to rise again from death and sets into motion a series of events that only the wizard can help her to resolve. And if the wizard and Dahlia cannot defeat the Dark Queen, then the utopian existence as they know it will be forever changed to a dystopian one. So in the beginning of time, which some call prosthesis, the world of Oz was centered around one magical being, whom many call the wizard. It was the time in Oz before the Dark Queen, and as legend goes, the wizard's body went through a mystical change.
Anita, can you stop for a second?
Yeah, just a second. You need to, I guess, start again. Just a second. Here's one place. Yeah. Remember. Yeah, you can start from this.
Let's start from, can we start from, let's start from the, yes, right there. Okay. So in our original story concept, our story begins with once upon a time, in a place where nature can thrive and flourish, a place called Oz. A young girl named Dahlia falls through a wormhole from this world to a mystical one. And by doing so, she disturbs the grave of the Dark Queen, which allows the Dark Queen to rise again from death and sets into motion a series of events that only the wizard can help her to resolve. And if the wizard and Dahlia cannot defeat the Dark Queen, the utopian existence will be forever changed to a dystopian one. So in the beginning of time, which some call prosthesis, the world of Oz was centered around one magical being, whom many called the wizard. It was the time in Oz before the Dark Queen, and as legend goes, the wizard's body went through a mystical change.
It's believed that the wizard once was at a time human, but little is known about him before he came to Oz. It is our understanding that the wizard's physical changes were facilitated by both the environment and his transformation in assuming his role as a magical being, supreme warrior, and the sole protector of Oz.
So the great wizard had gone through many epic battles, and over time, this body evolved, infused by and with the magic of Oz and the very powerful blue ore. His skull extracted from his body and was infused with a magical metal to become a helmet. His skeletal system exuded from his body, much like an exoskeleton. and the external skeleton became a body of armor infused with the magical blue ore, protecting his chest, which protects the heart and works as an armor, his arms, which provide his shield, and protecting his feet and legs, giving added ability and speed and agility while engaged in battles.
His spine spiked out from the body to safeguard his back against the rear assaults. These elements protected him against the Dark Queen when the wizard defeated her in the original epic battle of Oz. The wizard is the only one to have battled the Dark Queen and won.
So over time, as the community grew, there were more and more gnomes that migrated to the community under the wizard's protection and guidance in this place of sanctuary. To serve this community, the wizards envisioned a colony where the gnomes could continue to live in peace with intriguing elements. So the wizard commissioned a nature gnome to assist in logging and designing new elements that would be created and added to the environmental system. This included new planetary elements, lands, unique water sources, and structures, catering to their various communal needs. During this process, he created two planes, both having a top and a bottom. These planes include spaces such as an urban parkland, an outdoor park pavilion, stargazers, and a mountain castle.
To accommodate these gnomes, the wizard utilized the magic of Maya to create the living units for gnomes. These units are then strategically connected with each other using the system of WASP to form various aggregations. These aggregations started growing, forming levels. These levels created more diverse and integrated living system, which then evolved into towers. To make the optimal use of terrain and to make the towers more stable, these aggregations then mutated according to the land topography.
So to create a harmonious community, the wizard placed all of these elements strategically throughout the land, which collectively made the Emerald City. This community flourished into a vibrant one, serving various functions for the gnomes within the amalgamations. The gnomes lived and worked within these amalgamations. And though these gnomes were small, the numbers continued to grow to be very large. So the wizard planned for the city to be both right side up and upside down. A city both unique and thriving, being a living organism in itself, it would change color according to the season. After the creation of the units and the living developments, the gnomes and the wizard used their magic to create the transportation system, which was collectively referred to as the kinesis. The kinesis consists of two networks, which are used by both the private and the public vehicles. Both private and public vehicles are powered by magic and provide transport that the gnomes designed. To commute from place to place by these routes, the wizard and gnomes designed a private vehicle. The private vehicle, which they called the broom, is a very interesting design, inspired by both the wizard's broom and the aerodynamics of a bird. This vehicle has a wind intake system to work the propulsion system and wings to guide its direction. The broom consists mainly of 5 parts, which are wings, bottom hull, passenger plate, front armor, and wind intake system. The broom is capable of carrying up to 2 passengers for shorter distances. And this is a showcase of the broom. As the private vehicle serves for the travel of shorter distances, the gnomes and the wizard created the public vehicle, which they call Nader. This vehicle serves as a battleship and a communal vehicle for larger groups. The vehicle has a circular shape, which minimizes its wind resistance. The power to operate this vehicle comes from the power core, which runs on the blue magical ore. As a battleship, it also consists of various cannons for protection. To route the power to different parts of the ship through the power core, it has a very meticulously created system of power cables. The ship is an engineering marvel of gnome design, which consists of several small and larger parts, all handcrafted using the robust tools of Houdini, which collectively made this ship operate in unison. The Nader is capable of carrying up to 20 passengers at a time, including the ship's crew, along with the dedicated cargo bay for storage. And this is a showcase of the public vehicle, the Nader. So after the wizard's completion of the kinesis, he decided and proclaimed that all systems needed to be unified through a process of cosmogony. In this design process, the designers embraced elements of nuclei experimentation. The cosmogony was derived from slime mold growth logic and is then applied on real-life terrain of a real island in a mystical land called Kyushu, which is off the coast of Japan. This provided the gnomes with their initial terrain. From this real-life inspiration map, the gnomes extracted the digital elevations, which gave them the height data. To preserve the green coverage on the island, the gnomes separated the green areas from the terrain map. They also incorporated the resources map of the island in their studies to extract the most habitable terrain where the amalgamations could be deployed. Then, to connect the smallest sized islands to the designer gnomes, connected these to the mainland with circular high-speed bridges. And using this data, they generated the primary network. In order to get to the secondary network, the gnomes excluded the habitable land from the terrain and used the map as data for nuclei. After which, the designer gnomes reduced the area to the habitable terrain to generate the data for the tertiary network. And by using that data, they generated the tertiary network, which is utilized to connect the amalgamations themselves. Further, to create the amalgamation parcels, the gnomes used the habitable terrain map, which was then divided into a Voronoi grid, or the game of life algorithm, to deploy the amalgamations into the parcels. After layering the networks together, the designer gnomes identified the possible public zones. And here is an exploded diagram of the map layers to show how the gnomes chose to overlay the networks on top of each other. And this is a view of how the amalgamation is placed on the lands of Oz. Now we will move to the most densely populated and important area of the lands of Oz, which is the Emerald City, the capital of Oz. The capital is a representation of a heavily populated city, serving all the core functions represented by the amalgamation clusters, as well as the public zones. In this representation of the city, you can see that the parcels are now populated with the amalgamation types. This would include residential, administration, academic, leisure and entertainment, and storage. And now we will permit someone else to say a few words.
Hi, I am Naomi. We hope you have enjoyed your visit to the land of Oz. A place of hope, natural wonder, and the historic battle between the Great Wizard and the Dark Queen.
Finally, overall, the wizard was so enamored with the special features and protections offered by these networks, he used his magic to transform and recreate the landscape of Oz using an exaggerated version of the very same height map from Kyushu. And now we will have a moment in the story of the Land of Oz.
Prashant, sorry. Can you share and reshare because you have the black thing?
Is it fine now?
Oh, it's still there. Can you share the whole screen?
Yeah. Yeah.
There are many who know the story of Oz, but few know the story of the wizard. A place of peace and tranquility, Oz was a land where all who came felt safe and welcome. With its lush lands and pastures. Then one evening, under the cover of night, darkness loomed. The wizard's closest confidant felt something was amiss. So she sent for the wizard. The Dark Queen had returned, and an epic battle would ensue. The crew was to answer the call and prepared for battle. And the Dark Queen came in again. Many nights passed. The wizard grew weary. Until the Dark Queen was no more. Or was she? Thank you.
Thank you, guys. It was a lot of fun to watch the final version of the video. Thank you so much for all your hard work. I think that you were for one of the teams that was very persistent, very open to learning and changes. And I know that it was a long path, especially for you, Anita. Like that was a new endeavor, right? Like taking it over. So, and Prashant, I know that like you had a lot, like also like on your plate, but you guys really did a beautiful project, unique storytelling. So I really think that like you really created this like really magical place that you envisioned even from the beginning. and you really progressed and grew so much throughout the whole process. So really, congratulations from me, guys.
Thank you.
Well, I'll say something. First of all, thank you, Anita and Prashant. It's been really, really nice working with you. We started together working on the prosthesis, so I remember back then we were wondering, well, where this journey would lead you to, and a lot of explorations back then. Now I can see, also thanks to a very good storytelling, I must say, you kept all the pieces together. In my opinion, if I can give a bit of a criticism, sometimes, you know, the way you put together your narrative, it's really compelling and it works. Just visually, sometimes I think I can still see some difficult moments in kind of like stitching the chapters together. Sometimes, so that's something that might need a bit of refinement, let's say. But overall, the narrative works, and I need to praise that. And then another thing that I wanted to point out is, well, there is one thing that I'm sure you knew I was about to point out is, we've been talking about that since the very beginning. Where are the magical companions? Where are those like origami looking like creatures? I was in love with them. And I believe Alec was too. So it's a pity that we don't see them today, because they would show just such a like creative taste from you guys, remember, and also kind of like good way of starting modeling using software you never used before. But anyway, the other thing I want to point out, I think there is, as I said before, there is a bit of clashing of styles sometimes. It looks more kind of like you've been exploring over the year, which is not a bad thing. I like to highlight these because to me is another way of, you know, like going through these masters, right? You're constantly pushed to do and do and do, and to learn new software every week, right? So sometimes, yes, at the very end, it doesn't show like as a fully cohesive project, or you didn't get to, you know, find your language after the second week, but you've been keeping exploring and trying to get that exposure to different workflows that you made your own. And then after this master, hopefully you'll be able to pick, right? So I think this is just like another way to go through the master and still learn a lot. And in this sense, I'd say the moment where you were showing the details and the reasoning behind the spaceship before, I would say that was really well made, and I felt like there is where you really found, you know, that level of control that we've been trying to reach and to achieve in the very first chapter, but where we were a bit more explorative right at the beginning, jumping between different software. So if there is any moments that I'll point out as like potentially like a starting point to build like an aesthetic, a language, that's the one that I was particularly interested in. Overall, congrats, very nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have to agree with Nicholas on the, you know, we get a lot of this in the office too sometimes. If we throw too many things into the pot in terms of, you know, all the different programs or technology, it's kind of hard to extract a certain look and feel that's, you know, more stylized or in a direction that you want to go for. So I commend you though for, you know, tackling so many different things throughout the year in terms of technology. But I will say the one thing that I do love is that diagram up at the top. I think this is the first team, and this is just a broad comment, the first team that's actually done something that has a relative scale, which I know we're talking about a lot of virtual worlds and a lot of mythical places, but it's also sometimes hard to capture scale in when we talk about virtual worlds. And I think to see a map like that and to see kind of arcs that kind of at least allude to a little bit of the traveled path, how long it would take me, how many hours it would take me to get from point A to point B, kind of helps a little bit, because I think a lot of the times things are scaleless, which I know can be a good thing, but also for us to kind of perceive it from an optical third point of view is kind of a good thing from a human perspective. I think, like, I was talking with somebody the other day about, you know, if I showed up today in physical person to the review, and I walked through the door and you knew that I actually caught a plane over to see you, because I'm in Amsterdam now, you would feel so much more flattered that I actually took the time to ride on the plane for 13 hours to come see you. And there's something about that kind of sentimentality of knowing that somebody transcended a great distance in order to get to you, and I start to see that in the map there too. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just wanted to echo Nicholas's comments here real quick about the fact that there are three different styles, almost, you know, the creature and the pods and the environments are three different, you know, aesthetics or three different modeling styles. And at the beginning, I kind of I was questioning that a little bit, but now looking deeper at it, I think maybe the positive suggestion here is that, you know, the creature that, let's say, it's the creature that made the pods, right? In your story, is that there's an understanding and or maybe a level of constraints that you indirectly implemented here, where the creature itself knows that it can't make a pod or a transportation mode or system that is similar to its skin or its aesthetics or its composition, right? And then there's also another understanding that, you know, you can't really make the same thing out of rocks, right? Or whatever the environments that you're implementing here, whatever material that you're doing, that can't be implementing it and it can't be implemented into the transportation mode here. So I think as much as that, yes, you may not have committed to a particular aesthetic system, I think I do find that very, very successful. And it's something that I can personally relate to as a human looking into these foreign worlds, is that the buildings that we live in are different from the skins that we have or different from the vehicles that we drive. And that is just because it's as simple as it's the constraints, the physics and the science and the facts of that. And I'm kind of glad to see that variation in every single one of them. It's true that you may not have explored all of them to a great depth, but I do enjoy, and I do agree with Nicholas's point about the fact that the vehicles and the design of the pods are super successful to where that's the part that you probably honed in the most at. And that's the part that you've tackled successfully in terms of the modeling and the aesthetics of it. But I think the three different styles actually are refreshing, let's say the least. So, good job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also liked a lot the narrative. Yeah, I congratulate you. It's a very interesting project with amazing visuals. And yeah, I mean, I thought it was interesting that you used, I mean, in this case, it was like magic, the energy resource for this urban development. And I think the storytelling was great. I coincide with the rest of the panelists that at moments it was a bit challenged. Like there were a bit like some moments in which, you know, you had to mention software names and also or real world sites. And we're supposed to be speaking about the Land of Oz. But I mean, other than that, I think it's in this project, just as the rest of the presentation, it's really amazing to see the translation of these AI mid-journey inspiration into these highly detailed characters and also this sort of architecture or transportation systems. And finally, yeah, I actually appreciate in the case of this group how your final amalgamations were eventually they try to adapt to the land. There were not only compositions set. I mean, I know that they were set by some rules, but I think that adaptation was successful, and because of that, I think you could have benefited of showing that a bit more in the videos and your images. I think that just the final composition of the overall mega structure would have been good to see in more instances. But yeah, congratulations! It was great.
Thank you for the insights.
Thank you for the positive comments and the feedback. Thanks, Prashant. Thanks, you, Anita, for the amazing work. It's a very challenging year. And I would like to present the final team from Group B, Anya and Nader.
Hello, let me share my screen. All right. And my name is Anya.
And this is Julie.
I'm from Chicago and my background is in fashion design. I've always been interested in sci-fi and extraordinary stories. And my father, he's a pinball designer and gets to create games that explore many different ideas. And he's inspired me to let my creativity guide me in life.
And I'm from the New York metro area. I'm a footwear designer, and I'm super passionate about pushing footwear forward to a whole new era.
And over the last year, we've developed a story about a potential dystopic future for humanity using completely new 3D programs. We both went into this with limited knowledge on computational design and have been able to learn all of these programs to bring to you today. Cerulean. Oh. All right. The answer to human survival is not out there. It's here on Earth, water. As we built equipment to travel off-world for supplies, our world slowly deteriorated below. It was too late to search for answers among the other planets, forcing humanity to travel inwards to depths unknown. Hope has been found, for a new mysterious crystal holds the answer for the future of humanity.
Its ability to deliver highly efficient energy and power the whole world's needs. A new civilization is able to rise and recover from the ashes. There's just one catch. The mineral only works underwater. Humanity mutates and changes rapidly with the crystal's energies and accelerant. They adapt to underwater survival, spearheading the whole civilization beneath the ruined dross of existence that lay surface. The new civilization decides to take up residence in the Marianas Trench, the deepest point in the ocean. As the earth flooded, the trench continued to expand and ever deepen. Modeling the prosthesis began in Maya, where a top-down approach was taken, first imagining the genetic modification of underwater species at a cranial level. This allowed for us to implement the biomimetic design into the spine system and the arms, ensuring that the species could function in the underwater environments. Later on, the humans developed fins to help precise movement and locomotion, all of which were modeled in separate but interlinked parts.
The spine of the prosthesis remains integral to their everlasting survival. It is depressurized, allowing for extreme flexibility and rotation in the underwater currents. Each and every part of the human body goes through changes. The dilated thoracic cavity expands to allow for the larger volume retention and oxygen retention and respiration, while other parts like the epidermis became clear to blend more seamlessly with their surroundings. The body, reflective of the initial human body, experiences drastic changes everywhere. The limbs and organs expand effortlessly to ensure long-term survival. The epidermis, or skin, now has a lower density, maximizing flexibility and camouflage. The ribs are the essential exoskeleton protecting the most important part of being, the lungs. The organs are an interdependent system where they control the allocation of bodily energies. The bone structure and organ system work hand in hand to deliver highly efficient protection and energy throughout the being. The legs mutated into one system, allowing for powerful movement underwater. And the spine depressurized, allowing for extreme flexibility and rotation. The neural capacity expanded so that the human now has the ability to change color and body surface roughness instantaneously. And the forelimbs mutated for easier water traversal, allowing for fin-like propulsion. The body's evolution follows naturally to even the most subtle of parts, like cartilage, allowing the being to the ability to adapt to extreme underwater survival.
Similarly, the dwelling spaces of the prosthesis were modeled subdivisionally in Maya, where a logical three-way pod system was arrived upon. With the help of mid-journey references for furniture and exterior form finding, the final 3D model found its way through a set of intentional 3D design decisions. The dwelling spaces should reflect the design style of their inhabitants and provide ample space for connection, restoration, and maneuverability. All elements that were laid in the earlier frameworks of the design ideation allow for the clear balance between transparency and space circulation. Next is the diagram of the section of the corpuscle. Each new section of this structure serves a purpose in aiding the beings' lives and developments. Having to adapt to this new lifestyle, it is important for the beings to feel unified, safe underwater, and to lead fulfilling lives. Everything in this being's living space has a purpose to do that for them. Within the upper pod, there's a restoration space where it provides essential energy to the species. The neural network system connects the beings. It is a device that the beings can use to control their underwater and overall spaces. The crystal energy powers everything in this neural network. It creates bioluminescent lighting, energy to regenerate the beings, and powers the communication systems in cerulean. Contingent with their continued survival, the corpuscle provides all the necessary living conditions needed for the beings to not only exist independently, but also, more importantly, to connect with each other. The framework of the corpuscle pod is broken down into several key components: the central structure vital to its environmental incubation, an interior main pod that houses the main neural network, the bioluminescent lighting providing needed visibility at all times in the Mariana Trench, the interior lower pod that functions as the main social space for the beings, the external protective layer made from impenetrable eye epidermis, the bubble windows which add protection and visibility, and allow the beings to interact seamlessly with the interior spaces, yet give a sense of transparency to view their exterior surroundings in much more relaxed and refined ways. And the interior upper pod, which houses the restoration faculties of the three-pod system, where beings can come after a long day to recoup and refresh their cells.
The question is clear from the start: what type of networks and cities would make the most sense for an interconnected underwater species? Here, the modeling started in Maya. We explored networks and corpuscle logic and how they intertwine all across the cliff-engulfed environment. Naturally, that led to a system that wraps in coils, seamlessly moving across the seafloor. There are 5 public spaces where these beings can join together. The beings of cerulean are ever adapting and changing to their underwater environment, constantly creating rehabilitation and restoration zones, vital for the overall health of the society. Social spaces like town halls are in the center of the cities, providing connections to and from local and broader neighborhoods. Resources are collected at a resource reservoir zone, where the beings rely on private and public vehicle networks to travel to and from these key spaces. Interconnectedness and socialization is a huge part of the cerulean system, with mineral markets being the main hubs for trade and commerce. After long hours of work and trade, some inhabitants may find themselves at an aquatic oasis, where a rebalance of their energies is prioritized and freedom to rest is made limitless. As the civilization grows and continues to persevere, the cities and connections will change and adapt for further challenges and lifestyle changes. They are pushing their own boundaries forwards to create a network of cities far and wide across the ocean floor, with private and public vehicle networks dominating the landscape.
The design of the vehicles was first explored using Midjourney, with prompts focusing on mimicking the nature of whales and other aquatic animals like sharks and fish. Then Houdini was used to create the base forms, utilizing procedural modeling and its built-in nodes. The final designs are technologically innovative while retaining the biomimetic style to sought ones in Midjourney.
Every being in cerulean travels by public transportation to get to and from the 5 public spaces. The public vehicle lands upon its pad at each of the public spaces. It is here where the beings can load crystals to be moved around cerulean, as well as transport themselves. The vehicles are made from the strongest, most durable minerals, ensuring deep sea pressure stability. The docking mechanism locks the vehicle into space. It is controlled by the captain's neural network. Seamlessness is existent everywhere in the lives of the cerulean beings. with loading and unloading happening instantly as vehicles approach their docking destinations. A hallmark of Cerulean innovation, the public vehicles allow the inhabitants to broaden their social spaces and connect more deeply to the beings around them. Within the private vehicle, the beings of Cerulean are seamlessly intertwined. They're able to fit their fins in the slots naturally and are provided with comfortable pads to lay upon that conforms to their bodies. The vehicle's sleek, like ergonomic design is optimized for maximum comfort and protection while the beings traverse the depths of the Marianas Trench. A distinguishing feature is the blue rippled windows and biomorphic outer surface, which offers a familiarity to the beings similar to their own body textures and appearances. The emissive windows provide ambient but crucial lighting for the depths of Cerulean, as well as key protection from underwater predators with its biomimetic design and form. The private vehicle docks seamlessly to a tube outside each corpuscle dwelling, providing the beings efficient entry to and from the private vehicle paths. The vehicle tubes are charged with a unique crystal fluid that provides the vehicle restorative powers for daily use. The overall docking system works in tangent with the overall architecture of the being's living spaces, which ensures ease of access and use at all times, giving Cerulean continued opportunity to establish its mark as a city of natural, effortless order.
As they gaze upwards at the ocean sky, they think of their ancestors and what was once on the surface. They think about the other humans and where they may have left and where they may have gone after Earth. The landscape of the Mariana Trench is rough, but the people of Cerulean are resilient and adapt easily to these changes. The cities of Cerulean are shaped around the key mining and volcano resource zones. They rely on the vast network of public spaces to socialize and communicate with each other constantly. The networks are broken into private and public sectors, of which the private sectors connect the interlocal communities and corpuscle dwelling spaces. The public highways connect the smaller communities throughout all of Cerulean, being the most important modes of transportation. All of Cerulean is powered by the crystal and geothermal energy. The beings hold the crystal as their highest possession and respect it. They understand it's not just for their survival, but for all of life on Earth, survival depends upon this crystal. Logical networks between the cities themselves allow the inhabitants to adapt to changes needed in the infrastructure spontaneously. Given that the civilization was built upon the topology of the deepest part of the ocean, the Mariana Trench, it made sense for the beings to use the height and water flows to their advantage, creating their structures and cityscapes all around them. Public hubs are well connected, ensuring that travel to and from cities is efficient, which allows for the beings to connect more easily on a social scale. The civilization adapts using deep ocean floor, harnessing the intrinsic powers laden in rocks and minerals, pushing them to a vision to explore and establish the previously unknown.
Humanity harnessed the regenerative power from the new species around them and became inspired, developing cities far and wide. The beings of Cerulean think about how lucky they are that the Marianas Trench has provided such beneficial sustenance to continue the human race, thriving off the abundance of networks and resource chains. As the civilization grows and continues to persevere, the cities and connections will change and adapt for further challenges and lifestyles. The struggle for survival is continuous, but the never-ending spirit of the Cerulean beings have cultivated cities, flourishing, protected, and seamlessly pioneering a new era of technological advancement. They are an interconnected being who rely on each other to survive. As they move towards their next chapter, they are pushing their own boundaries forwards to create a network of cities far and wide across the ocean floor. As they look ahead, they will have to prepare themselves for further struggle and interdependence. Who knows what cataclysm or extraterrestrial threat will call next? The only way to move is forward. Thank you for joining us, and we can't wait to further explore the depths of Cerulean.
Thank you for your presentation, guys. Really impressive work, very elegant project. You guys started from the beginning with this really unique perspective and designs, and you pushed through like all these different chapters. And I feel that it was really like one of the teams that like was really successful and like with really good team collaboration. So thank you so much for really being part of the program and learning so much. I know that you guys are coming from, you know, more of the fashion design world and from this perspective. And I'm sure that you have also like you're already, you know, like collaborations and designs and ideas of how to use all these tools into your next steps. So I'm very excited to see what, you know, like the next adventure for you is going to be.
Thank you, Papina.
Hey, I just wanted to commend you guys on, I would say every aspect of this is so beautiful. I really like the materialization and the fidelity and level of quality of all of the visuals. I really liked the form language of the cities and again, the vehicles and the docking stations and things like that. The only thing I would potentially see an opportunity for, if any, is the different city sections. I think where there was like the area for, yeah, the amalgamations, all having very similar form language. And I wasn't sure if that was intentional, maybe for a reason, but I would just imagine that there's an opportunity to differentiate them visually a little bit more so that they reflect their purpose. But again, that is a small detail relative to how well I think you all did this project. So congratulations. Great work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know you've been working on this for a year, and which is pretty phenomenal given the recent fascination with underwater activities and things. I just watched James Cameron's The Abyss the other night. call me out if it's too old of a movie, but I think everybody should watch James Cameron's The Abyss because it was actually filmed with almost so little CG. It was actually all done live action. And when I watched this, I saw that you actually listed the timeline as 2100 something or other. I could almost see this as the prequel to James Cameron's The Abyss because it kind of outlines a little bit of the narrative of why the alien civilization went underwater. And I think anybody that has any kind of mesh modeling capability can see that your ability to control the mesh modeling is actually super clean. I think you've mastered that. Yeah, I think the only component that I was missing a little bit, almost like how James Cameron left me on the edge of my seat, is he never really focused on how these creatures actually propel themselves or how they operate in the water or how they control water or use it as an element all around them. And I think that's maybe something you did as well for me. I kind of want to know how these things, they move or how their machines move or how they've managed to get so far without being able to kind of forge things out of, fire. And so, I think it's one of those questions whenever you think about civilization underwater, you always think like, well, how were you able to tackle like circuitry and electrical pulses and things like that underwater? So yeah, very good work.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Maybe we should pitch it to James Cameron.
Yeah, email it to him real quick.
Hey there. Also, let me join all the others with all these congratulations. Very impressive work. From the beginning to the end. It is this one of the projects where you can also see how this new ecosystem is actually landing on a very specific context. When you in your video show this sequence, this very elegant, also continuous sequence that is following the different actors that are inhabiting this environment. You can also very much see how all this infrastructure is contextualized, in its environment. And I want to congratulate you for that. I would say that I think it's a very good intuition, and it's also a very good result, the one that you develop. But I also agree that maybe since you start to engage with the environment, will be also interesting when you start to speak about energy resources and all the different, at the end, systems are propelling the behavior and the functionality of all these different, at the end, urban layers. I will push a little bit more again on how they maybe interlock deeper with the resources of this context. There is something that is somehow more or less there when you move, when you actually move in this space. And about the buildings, I also agree, but they might look very much alike. And when something like this happens, it's extremely useful probably to look inside. So maybe have a small section, or a little bit understand actually how those spaces behave differently. So if you have, a town hall or one of the other spaces that I don't remember now, the resource reserve, etc., etc., would be interesting to see how are you storing the energy, how are you, where this mechanism is actually generating a public space, a town hall, whatever. So it would be interesting probably to go a little bit deeper inside the real functionality of these systems and look on really why they look so similarly, but actually they are not nonetheless capable of functioning differently. So that said, congratulations is a huge amount of work. That is easy to stay here and comment, but I'm pretty much sure that it's very difficult to realize. So really congratulations to you and all the other students for this impressive, really engaging also story that you all were capable to tell at the end. And I want to congratulate evidently also the faculties that were pushing so much this year to allow all of it.
Thank you so much. And yes, shout out to everyone.
I also wanted to jump in and say that, yeah, congratulations. I think each of the design elements, like the characters and vehicles, are greatly designed, and also the color palette chosen is like very suiting to the theme of water. But especially the final composition of all these amalgamations is very compelling. I think, you know, this final aggregation right there is it carried the ideation that you can see in the vehicles and characters all the way to the final composition or the final morphology. And in this case, you are able to see the aggregation with repetition, but I think it's used in a very intelligent and controlled way. So the final result has enough complexity and it's just visually striking. And I don't know, I think it probably has to do with your background in fashion design, guys. So I definitely congratulate you for that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Carlos.
I tend to agree with all the previous comments, really. So I'll just reiterate, Nader and Anya, it's really beautiful work you presented today. So following your journey since the beginning, I'll say like just the prosthesis part was already quite successful, and we could see straight away that, you know, like you were kind of like following like a safe path in a way that you seem to be at ease with the process you were exploring already, and you kept building on. So it was a very smooth process since the day one. You've kept progressing day by day, and I think this is visible in the results today. That being said, you also tackle a very complex, especially when it comes to, well, in this case, these projects are so heavy in visuals, so you tackle complex aspects such as, you know, dealing with underwater environments, specifically in videos that's not easy to address. I reckon that, but at the same time, I think like the visuals are stunning. They're particularly working well just because of the elegance and the coherence of your geometry when you isolate the elements, the devices, the means of transportations, and so on. I wish I could have seen more about, that's something that's been said already, but more about the integration of these elements within the submarine environment. And perhaps maybe like even in the latest chapter, like cosmogony, where you're starting mapping the trench, which by the way, I think is a brilliant idea to have this new, so like civilization that is establishing down there. I think that could have been a good reason for you to explore a bit more of the consequences of, you know, like a new civilization starting to build and grow in there. And as it was saying before, I think that by Aldo, like resources, you know, gathering energy, how that happened, where is the interconnection between, say, like the pods and the reef. So like all these questions, or like how do certain devices react to a certain level of pressure down there? That's something that became unfortunately mainstream in these latest days. So all these questions, I think like they're still kind of in a way left half open to explore for you guys. And so I feel like this is a research that doesn't stop in here. But really, I want once again to comment like the beauty and the coherence of the language that you got in here. So great job, really.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nicholas. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again.
Perfect, guys. Do we have any additional comments? Okay. It was such a pleasure to have the opportunity really to be with all of you today, to have the opportunity and the honor to be a part of DesignMorphine and to be a part of the journey of this new master's degree and exploration of so much knowledge coming to fruition for so many people, impacting everyone's lives and growth and journey. And this personally means so much to me. It's really a dream come true. I keep saying it because it's difficult to believe. Like, I'm so proud of you guys, like of all your growth, everything that like you have done, really. It's a unique journey for each one of you. And that's what the beauty of this is. And that's where this master's is trying to empower you to have your own voice, no matter what. to be fearless, to have your own mind. And we're trying to support you in this vision in the best possible way. So really congratulations to absolutely all the students for all the hard work. Super, super proud of you guys. And I just wanted also to thank from the bottom of my heart also like all the guests that joined us today with all these kind words, with all the support and the love that you guys are showing to the students. This means so much to us, especially because this is a new endeavor still. This is the second year of our master degree program. And as well as all the educators who have put all their tirelessness really into this work and really supported the students like throughout their whole journey. So really proud to be part of this community. Always an honor to be associated with all of you guys.
Thank you everyone for joining today. It was a great day, very successful one, the end of the second academic year of this master's degree. Also, huge thanks from me to all of our guests. Your comments are so important for our students. Thanks a lot to all of the educators. Your hard work was shown today, like all the success we have is a huge part is from you. And congratulations to all the students. You are amazing. You showed your huge skills, and I wish you great success in your future endeavors. I'm super happy that I was able also to meet some of you in person last year in during our trip to New York for Microsoft, and now we are here in Sofia with a part of you in the University of Architecture. Actually, I'm now sitting in the Dean office, and the students are next door. So I asked them to join us here. So all of you, give me a few seconds to be able to see us live now.